Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up over the next hour, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurates the World Food India 2023 event in Delhi, says just like yoga, millets are set to go global due to India's efforts. The Israeli military says it has completed the encirclement of Gaza City and is attacking outposts, headquarters and other Hamas infrastructure, calls it a war of self-defense. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken makes a second visit to Israel since the 7th of October Hamas attacks. The focus is on minimizing harm to civilians. India and Italy signed a mobility and migration partnership agreement following External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's talks with his Italian counterpart in Rome. And upset masters Afghanistan and the Netherlands are clashing in the Cricket World Cup today. At stake is not only a semi-spot but also a Champions Trophy berth. The Israel and Hamas conflict is in its 27th day. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a statement has said that Israeli forces have pushed further into Gaza City in their assault on Hamas in the north of the Gaza Strip. While Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Lior Hayat has said that this is a war of self-defense after being attacked brutally.
This is a war of self-defense after being attacked brutally. And our goal in this war is to eliminate Hamas control and Hamas terrorism from the Gaza Strip. It's a matter of survival, because if we won't do that, Hamas will continue with other massacres, one after the other. This is not just me saying that. Hamas leadership is saying just that. They plan another October 7 massacre and another one after that and another one after that.
Now this comes as the Israeli military has said it has completed the encirclement of Gaza City. The army spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, has said that the offensive into the enclave was going according to plan. He added that forces have been attacking outposts, headquarters and other infrastructure being used by the Hamas.
The forces continue to dismantle the front defense lines of Hamas in the northern Gaza and to take control of central areas. We continue to intensify our operations and to advance according to plan and to the targets that we have set. The battle is ongoing as we have planned. In each battle, we have the upper hand, and that's how we move forward.
And US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Israel on Friday to push for humanitarian pauses in the Gaza war. Blinken, on his second trip to Israel in a month after the 7th October attacks, is due to meet Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. Well, let's get you more on these developments related to the Israel-Hamas conflict. DD India's Sarah Coates is joining us live from Tel Aviv. Good afternoon to you from Delhi, Sarah. Now, the fighting only seems to be intensifying as Secretary Blinken is visiting Tel Aviv for the second time since the 7th of October. It's said that his focus this time is on minimizing civilian casualties in the war. What can we expect now?
Yes, good afternoon. Well, look, fighting is certainly intensifying, but so are diplomatic efforts also. As you mentioned, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he landed here in Tel Aviv just a few hours ago, came along just behind me along that sea line there with a motorcade sirens blaring. He is right now meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu right here in Tel Aviv. After that, he's set to speak with Israel's expanded war cabinet about Israel's military ambitions going forward as this war continues almost a month now. Now, we know that there are key objectives, a number of key objectives that Mr. Blinken is hoping to achieve during this visit. One of those, is, of course, is discussing plans to potentially minimise civilian casualties inside the Gaza Strip. Another one will be to get these hostages back safe and sound from the Gaza Strip. He's also trying to increase humanitarian aid to Palestinians living in that coastal enclave, as well as potentially pushing for a humanitarian pause. This is what he told reporters as he was leaving Washington late Thursday. Now, the White House did come out to speak about these potential humanitarian pauses, saying that they would be limited and they would be localized, reiterating the White House's stance, Washington's stance, that Israel continues to have the right to defend itself. Now, as you mentioned, heavy fighting does continue inside the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military came out just a couple of hours ago to say that it has now encircled the entire of Gaza City. We do know that there is an update, though, on the casualties on the Israeli side. 23 troops have now fallen since this ground incursion began.
Right now, and what about the effort to ensure that the war doesn't spread further as well? Israel is holding exercises on the Golan Heights. More people have been killed in the West Bank. The Hezbollah seems undaunted by Israel's warnings with its rocket attacks. Now, will the fighting remain contained?
Well, look, that is yet to be seen. There's a very important speech coming up in just a matter of hours' time, a speech that will be very widely watched. This is the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah. He's set to speak in Lebanon at 3 p.m. local time. And many believe that this speech could really dictate where this war goes from here. It will be the first speech from Nasrallah since all of this conflict broke out. And as you mentioned, the fighting on the northern border with Lebanon is only intensifying, really worrying not just the Israelis, but the wider region. Overnight, we saw rockets, many rockets flown over from the Lebanese side into Israeli territory. A number of those missiles did actually hit a small town up on the border. It's called Kiryat Shimona, and then a large fire broke out. Now, in addition to this, Hezbollah militants did claim that they flew a number of explosive-laden drones over towards Israeli territory. Still no comment from the IDF on that, but this certainly marks a big uptick of violence.
All right. Well, let's see what happens next. There is, of course, at stake the fate of all Gazans as well, including those hostages, as well as a lot of other citizens who've been stuck in Gaza. I believe 74 U.S. citizens have also been able to get out and into the Egyptian side, and that's among the latest updates as well. Sarah Coates joining us from Tel Aviv. Thank you. Now, referring to the escalation of the Israel-Hamas war, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, during his Rome visit, has said that the attack on the 7th of October by the Hamas on Israel was a big act of terrorism, and added that there needs to be a solution for the issue of Palestine.
Obviously, what happened on October 7th, this big act of terrorism, the subsequent happenings after that, this has taken the entire region into a very different direction. We have to find a balance between different issues, because there's no question. I mean, if there is an issue of terrorism and we all find terrorism unacceptable, we have to stand up on terrorism. But there is also an issue of Palestine. There has to be a solution to what is, the problems which face the Palestinian people. And our view is that it has to be a two-state solution.
And in the ongoing conflict, Israel's military has claimed another Hamas commander has been killed during overnight operations. Mustafa Dalloul directed combat against IDF forces and held key positions in Hamas's Gaza City brigade. That's what the IDF said. And on its northern border with Lebanon, Israel's Hagari has said troops are remaining on high alert to tackle any threat coming across the border.
We continue to fiercely defend our northern border and to strike from the air and land any attempt to shoot or infiltrate into Israel. I want to highlight that Israel Defense Forces is on high preparedness to respond to anyone who attempts to destabilize the security situation in the north. We are highly prepared on the northern border.
Chilean and Colombian governments have recalled their ambassadors to Israel for consultations. Chile called for a ceasefire and the passage of humanitarian aid into the zone and said Israel is violating international laws. Colombian President Gustavo Petro called the attacks a massacre of the Palestinian people. Other Latin American neighbors such as Mexico and Brazil have also recently called for a ceasefire. Even Bahrain has severed diplomatic ties for the moment with Israel. We'll keep getting updates on the situation. But coming up on DD India News Hour, Bhutan's king is in Guwahati as part of his week-long India visit, which will also take him to Delhi and Maharashtra. Severe levels of air quality in and around Delhi leads to strict restrictions being imposed on construction and old vehicles. Schools shut till grade 5 for at least 2 days. And India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman calls on Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe during her Colombo visit.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Well, hundreds of foreign passport holders and dozens of other seriously wounded Palestinians are desperate to escape Israel's bombardment of Gaza. And let's see how this is playing out at the moment. That's what's been happening because of the war that broke out on the 7th of October and the heavy bombing that the Gaza Strip has been witnessing from the Israelis. There are thousands upon thousands of people who were initially told to leave North Gaza and move towards the south, who are now at the Egyptian borders in the south, mainly Rafah, but there are other crossings, possible crossings as well, and that's what they're collecting, and people have started to exit as well. That process started because of mediation that took place through the US and through other countries as well some days back, a couple of days back, and let's see how the situation there.
Their hopes are alive, but they don't really know when will they actually cross the border. Hundreds of foreign passport holders and dozens of other seriously wounded Palestinians are desperate to escape Israel's bombardment of Gaza. Crowds and cars are waiting near Gaza's Rafah crossing, which is expected to open for the third day. Restless people waiting for the Hamas authorities to call their names over the scratchy loudspeaker. Each name represented another individual with a chance to escape the punishing war. The crossing opened earlier for limited evacuations. It aims to facilitate the departure of more foreigners seeking to leave Gaza. According to border officials, dozens of critically injured Palestinians and more than 700 foreign citizens left for Egypt via Rafah.
So we finally got the chance to almost leave Gaza. This is my 5th attempt to leave. We evacuated our house about 19 days ago.
While more aid trucks are waiting to cross through Rafah border, how soon they will be able to reach the people remains to be seen as Israel-Hamas war rages on.
And back home in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the second edition of the mega food event World Food India 2023 at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi today. The Prime Minister there said that just like yoga, millets are also now going to occupy the global stage very soon. Take a look.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the second edition of mega food event World Food India 2023 in New Delhi on Friday. Prime Minister disbursed seed capital assistance for over 1 lakh self-help groups members. This support will help the group gain better price in the market through improved packaging and quality manufacturing. The aid provided by government will benefit the women entrepreneurs the most.
भारत की महिलाओं में फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री को लीड करने की स्वाभाविक क्षमता है। इसके लिए हर स्तर पर महिलाओं को कुटीर उद्योगों और सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप्स को प्रमोट किया जा रहा है। आज इस कार्यक्रम में भी 1 लाख से ज्यादा महिलाओं को, जो विमेन सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप चलाती हैं, 1 लाख से ज्यादा महिलाओं को करोड़ों रुपयों की सीड कैपिटल दी गई और मैंने टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए अभी यहां से उसको ऑलरेडी उनके खाते में जमा कर दिया।
Addressing the event, PM Modi said that the fusion of technology and taste will pave the way for the economy of the future. In the last 9 years, Prime Minister informed that the sector has attracted foreign direct investment of more than rupees 50,000 crores as a result of the government's pro-industry and pro-farmer policies.
पिछले 9 वर्षों में हमारे कृषि निर्यात में प्रोसेस्ड फूड का हिस्सा 13 से बढ़कर 23% हो गया है। 13 to 23। 9 सालों में प्रोसेस्ड फूड के एक्सपोर्ट में करीब करीब 150% की वृद्धि हुई है। आज हम $50,000 मिलियन से ज्यादा का एग्रो एक्सपोर्ट करके ग्लोबली 7वें नंबर पर आ गए हैं।
India's food variety and food diversity has been a major global attraction. Prime Minister stressed that the food industry around the world has a lot to learn from the food traditions of India.
हम देश में 10 करोड़ से ज्यादा बच्चों को, गर्ल्स और प्रेग्नेंट विमेन को पोषक आहार उपलब्ध कराते हैं। अब समय है कि हम खाद्य वितरण कार्यक्रम को डाइवर्सिफाइड फूड बास्केट की दिशा में ले जाएं।
The food processing industry is a key driver of India's agricultural landscape, adding value, reducing food waste, and creating a vibrant market for farm produce. The event also aims to showcase India as food basket of the world and celebrate 2023 as the International Year of Millets. It will also feature a reverse buyer seller meet with over 1,200 overseas buyers from more than 80 countries.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Italy, where he's held a comprehensive and productive meeting with Italian counterpart Antonio Tajani. The two leaders conversed about deepening strategic partnership between India and Italy. They also agreed that there's potential in agro-tech, innovation, space, defense and the digital domain, which should be explored further. Following the meeting, both the countries signed a mobility and migration partnership agreement to enable seamless movement of workers, students and professionals, and also inked a cultural exchange program. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has called on Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Thursday during the three-day visit to the island nation. During the meeting, Nirmala Sitharaman highlighted that the vision document on economic partnership adopted during his visit to India in July 2023 will further strengthen the country's maritime, air, digital, energy and people-to-people connectivity. President Wickremesinghe also emphasized on Sri Lanka's vision to build a new market economy with focus on tourism, sustainability, agricultural modernization, as well as digitization, and welcomed collaboration with India in these areas. In a significant development for the Indian expatriate community in the United Arab Emirates, India's Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan held a meeting with the principals of Central Board of Secondary Education affiliated schools in Dubai. The announcement of opening a new administrative office in the UAE was made during the meeting. The decision holds the promise of further strengthening educational ties between India and the UAE and fostering a sense of unity within the Indian community in the region. The minister acknowledged the diverse nationalities within CBSE-affiliated schools in Dubai and commended their contributions to Indian academia as well as culture.
In the February 2022, both the leaders, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and His Highness Mohammed bin Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, has jointly announced a vision document for both the country for a new pathway. In that, they have dedicated something on education and skill. To taking forward that, we signed the MOU. The first outcome will be there will be a joint working group on education and skill by both the countries to work on regular basis. Senior officials from both the side will be engaged with their counterpart to create a lot of unanimity in the education sector.
The government of the Indian state of Gujarat hosted the vibrant Gujarat International Roadshow in Dubai on Thursday to showcase the immense potential for business and investment opportunities in the state. The event is a prelude to the upcoming 10th edition of the Vibrant Gujarat Global Summit, which is scheduled for the 10th to the 12th of January next year. The platform aims to highlight the state's economic prospects and the various avenues for investment and growth.
Gujarat is the #1 destination as far as the foreign tourist arrivals in India is concerned. It has also moved considerably in domestic tourism, and in tourism we are growing at almost double the rate of the national average. Then we have a very extensive and well-connected public transport, which is not there in most of the states. It has one of the best healthcare facilities in India, sports infrastructure. In fact, the world's largest cricket stadium, Narendra Modi Stadium, is now in Ahmedabad, and we hosted the World Cup India-Pakistan match now, and we'll be hosting the World Cup final also in Ahmedabad. It is one of the very vibrant and safe states in India.
The King of Bhutan arrived in India's Guwahati today for his official week-long visit to the country. The leader was received by Assam's Chief Minister at the airport. He is further scheduled to meet India's Prime Minister, External Affairs Minister and other senior government officials. The two nations look forward to the strengthening of bilateral relations between them. The Bhutanese king is also slated to travel to the Indian state of Maharashtra. Let's now get you some more updates from around the country as well. Indian Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan has visited the Indian Institute of Advanced Study in the Indian city of Shimla on Friday. General Chauhan took a tour of the heritage building and learned about the historic importance of the building as well as its research work. Around-the-clock operational exercise named Exercise Purvi Akash is being conducted by the Eastern Air Command of the Indian Air Force. Operational, maintenance and other critical activities are being undertaken across the entire command. The Indian Army and Kazakh ground forces are jointly training in Kazakhstan in the 7th edition of the joint military exercise Kazind 2023. Both sides are sharing best practices and focusing on interoperability under the UN mandate. And in the northeast state of Meghalaya, people of Khasi community celebrated annual festival Shad Nongkrem. The festival is a time-honored tradition that revolves around the form of dance and seeks blessings from the Almighty for a bountiful harvest. It offers a unique opportunity for both the locals and visitors to immerse themselves in the rich tapestry of Khasi customs. And still to come on DD India News are, Russia's Vladimir Putin has signed a law revoking the ratification of the nuclear test ban treaty. The Biden administration has announced a fresh salvo of sanctions on more than 100 Russian entities over the Ukraine war. And Storm Kieran has battered northwest Europe, killing at least 7 people and cutting off 1 million people from power grids.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Before we go any further, another look at our top stories. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has inaugurated the World Food India 2023 event in Delhi. He said, just like yoga, millets are set to go global due to India's efforts. Israel's military says it has completed the encirclement of Gaza City and is attacking outposts, headquarters and other Hamas infrastructure, calls it a war of self-defense. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has made a second visit to Israel since the 7th of October Hamas attacks. The focus this time is on minimizing harm to civilians. And India and Italy have signed a mobility and migration partnership agreement following External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar's talks with his Italian counterpart in Rome. The US and China are reportedly preparing to discuss nuclear arms control at a rare meeting next week. This would be the first time that the two superpowers will sit down for talks since the Obama administration ended almost 7 years ago. Let's get you more on this. Joining us now is Andrew Wood, DD India's Andrew Wood from Hong Kong. Good afternoon, Andrew. Now, how significant are these talks considering how the US and China relations seem to be having some sunny days after a frosty spring and summer?
Yes, it's ironic, isn't it? Just as winter starts, there's a thaw in relations between the US and China. It is important because so far China has been reluctant to talk about arms control because it says it has so few nuclear warheads and bombs and so on compared to America and compared to Russia. Now, thanks to arms control talks, the number of nuclear warheads and bombs, etc., has fallen dramatically over the past 30 years. At the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, I think Russia had around about 30,000 nuclear warheads and other bombs, and America had a similar number too. Now, depending on how you count them, both America and Russia are down to about 6,000 each. Some of them working, some of them deployed, some of them in storage. In contrast, China is believed only to have 500 nuclear weapons, although the Pentagon reckons that number is going to double very rapidly by the end of the decade. So it's good, I think, for America to feel, or Americans are probably going to be happy that China is at least discussing the issue. I don't think it's going to lead to formal talks anytime soon, but at least it must assuage some of the fears in the Pentagon that it might have to prepare for a three-way arms race between America, China, and Russia as well.
Right. And which are the other areas where American and Chinese cooperation seem to be looking up in a build-up to the much-anticipated Biden-Xi meet in Frisco?
Yes, that's still expected. It hasn't been completely confirmed yet. But, for example, you've got the climate envoys of China and America meeting this weekend. John Kerry, of course, being the American one, to talk about climate change. A week or two ago, President Xi Jinping said trying to find common ground on climate change and global leadership was one of the few bright spots in the relationship between America and China. Don't forget, America and China are the two biggest producers of the pollution that causes global warming. We're also seeing talks this week. China signed up to a declaration in the UK, along with America and the European Union, the Bletchley Declaration, on trying to put safety first when deploying and developing artificial intelligence. And at the moment, there are dozens of representatives of the US agricultural industry in Beijing talking to their counterparts in China. China has, in principle, signed a non-binding agreement to buy more soybeans, wheat and grain and so on from the United States. Don't forget, US farmers suffered quite a bit when Donald Trump introduced tariffs on many Chinese goods a couple of years ago. China then stopped buying so much stuff from America and looked to diversify its sources of agricultural produce. And countries, say, like Brazil, soybean producers in Brazil, have done very, very well. So this is a chance, perhaps, for Americans to get some benefit from this improvement in relations.
Right. Well, let's hope that this builds up to something that sustains through different ups and downs that we've seen between the US and China as far as their relations are concerned, and everything takes a positive trajectory. It will help a lot where the global situation is concerned, from food security to energy security and, of course, climate as well. Thanks a lot for joining us about it, Andrew Wood. Let's make the world a better and safer place. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a law revoking the ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, a move that Moscow has said is needed or was needed to establish parity with the United States. Both houses of Russian parliament voted last month to revoke Moscow's ratification of the bill. The Kremlin has also said that CTBT does not signify Russia's intention to conduct nuclear tests. The CTBT was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1996. Russia ratified the treaty in 2000, while the US has not yet ratified it. Now, the Biden administration has announced a new range of sanctions on more than 100 entities against Russia over the war in Ukraine. These latest restrictions target Russia's future energy capabilities, sanctions evasion, and a suicide drone, as well as various other military equipment, among others. It also cracks down on sanctions evasion in the United Arab Emirates, Turkey, and China. 7 Russian-based banks and dozens of industrial firms have also been hit with the sanctions. Let me now take you back to our previous story because we have DD India's Dasha Chernashova joining us from Moscow about it. Dasha, just place in context what Vladimir Putin has done with the CTBT, revoking that ratification in the context of how things are taking shape where US and China are concerned, where after a long time and a lot of effort at the US's end, China is now willing to engage with the US to talk about how to contain nuclear weapons.
Well, indeed, the Russian Federation has made a move to de-ratify the CTBT. We understand that was in order to put Russia on par with the United States. The Kremlin has been saying that the intention there was all along the way to get to the reality on the ground and to make sure that there is the so-called legislative parity between Moscow and Washington. So taking into account the new situation, Moscow has said it is revoking the ratification of the CTBT. Just to remind you, in 1996, the countries have signed this treaty, but Russia ratified it in 2000, and the US has never done so. We also have seen that China has not ratified this treaty. So Moscow is saying that at the moment, the ratification is irrelevant. That's why this move was taken by the Russian president as well as the Russian lawmakers. At the same time, the Kremlin is sending a very clear message to the outside world that it is not going to resume nuclear testing. It will only resort to this measure if the United States decides to resume nuclear testing as well, and then obviously Moscow will be forced to respond. In the same time, we are seeing this taking place as Russia is modernizing its strategic weapons and testing nuclear-capable missiles that are capable to carry nuclear weapons, and Moscow says it has a number of updates when it comes to the Russian strategic forces. Obviously, when you look at the geopolitical situation at the moment, we have seen the countries being worried about China increasing its nuclear arsenal as well, but Moscow has been very clearly saying that in the light of the strategic partnership relationship with Beijing, Moscow does not see that as a threat. Instead, Moscow was saying that was a response to the hostile environment in which the US was placing Beijing. So definitely, when you place it all in the context, Moscow is trying to send a very strong signal to Washington, saying that the hostile rhetoric of the US elites is unacceptable. And Moscow has been saying for months and actually several years now that the creation of the so-called multipolar world is in the making, and the US has to stop its hegemonic rhetoric, as Moscow has been describing that.
Okay, and it's strange then that, Dasha, it's the US which is expressing deep concern over Russia's decision, saying that, and I quote from the State Department statement, the United States remains committed to achieving the entry into force of the CTBT, and we reiterate our commitment to a zero-yield nuclear explosive testing moratorium which has been in place for 30 years.
Well, that's right, and Moscow has been saying that the US simply is not interested in actually ratifying this treaty because, look, they did have many decades in their pocket to ratify this treaty, but Moscow has been saying it ratified it in 2000, now it was time to de-ratify it. Again, from the perspective of the Russian elites, from the Russian authorities, there is a very clear picture of the United States not following the letter of law, not being honest when it comes to the implementation of several treaties. And if you look at the thoughts of the Russian political scientists and commentators who have been talking about this move, they do say that Russia should have acted like the US is acting for years now. And in this regard, Moscow has been, on the contrary, too honest, as they say. So definitely we see a lot of geopolitical changes taking place at the moment. It is also taking place as Russia has been increasing its nuclear rhetoric and talking about the new weapons that are going to get to the combat duty of the Russian Federation in the coming months, in the coming years, modernizing its arsenals. And obviously in the context of Ukraine, the conflict there that Moscow describes as a full-fledged hybrid war against Russia that Moscow was forced to get involved into. So certainly when you look at the geopolitical situation, you get particularly worried about that, but Moscow has been saying that it is not going to resume nuclear testing or use the nuclear weapons unless there is the real ground for that.
Okay, well, let's see which way that particular statement goes, and let's hope it doesn't go in the obvious direction. And we don't have that situation where nuclear weapons once again come into play after, well, more than 70 odd years. Now, Eric Trump, like his brother Donald Trump Jr., testified on Thursday that he had no knowledge of the allegedly tampering of documents. In a New York court, Donald Trump and his two sons are accused of inflating the value of homes and other assets in order to gain better credit terms. DD India's Jody Jacobs reports from New York.
Both Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have told the court here in New York that they were not involved in the questionable valuations. These are questionable valuations that now threaten to crumble their father's real estate empire. Eric and Trump Jr. were in charge of the business empire while their father served as president from 2017 to 2021. They have blamed accountants, claiming they are the ones that assembled the financial statements that were used to secure loans and insurance. Eric Trump even went further, saying he was not even aware that such documents even existed. Email proof was presented in court which painted a different picture, but neither vouched for the accuracy of the documents in question. The judge has already ruled that Trump, his two adult sons, and the company fraudulently inflated the asset values. Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, has also testified that Trump directed them to exaggerate the value of their assets, like the Trump Tower in Manhattan. The former U.S. president has denied any wrongdoing in his criminal and civil cases and has accused the Attorney General and the judge of political bias. This is a miscarriage of justice, he wrote on social media on Thursday. Trump himself is set to testify on Monday, the latest in many courtroom appearances for the former president. Jody Jacobs in New York, reporting for DD India.
Extreme weather events are being witnessed across the globe. Here's a detailed report.
Countries across the world are witnessing extreme weather events. At many places, air quality has become a matter of concern. Breathlessness, irritation in eyes, itchy throats and coughs. This is how people of India's national capital, Delhi, are living in the month of November, as a thick layer of toxic haze has descended on the city.
Quite serious, because the air quality index is crossing 400. It means that once we step out, we are in fact stepping into a gas chamber. The gas chamber, why I'm saying is that because the effect of poisonous gas or all these noxious toxic gases are really harming us, each and every part of the body. So when we inhale that particular air, when we go outside, so it goes into our respiratory system, but it doesn't stop there because it goes into the blood and each and every part of the body gets affected.
India is not the only country battling these weather extremes. Heavy smog enveloped the Chinese capital Beijing as authorities issued their highest warning for fog and haze in major northern cities. State forecasters also said on Friday that temperatures in northern China are set to plunge as much as 20 degrees Celsius after summer-like conditions in the final days of autumn. While fires and blazes are engulfing parts of Spain and Australia, around 350 people had to be evacuated as a result of a wildfire that blazed close to the coastal town of Gandia in eastern Spain. Bushfires blazed across Australian states of New South Wales and Queensland, killing at least 2 and destroying dozens of homes. Storm Ciaran lashed northwestern Europe on Thursday, killing at least 7 people and forcing schools, airports and train services to shut down. Scientific studies indicate that extreme weather events are likely to become more frequent or more intense with human-induced climate change. Akriti Bhandari for DD India.
And there's further updates coming up on DD India News Hour. Former FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty of fraud and other charges after a 5-week trial. And in sports, upset masters Afghanistan and Netherlands are taking each other on today in Lucknow in the Cricket World Cup.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
A platform for the developing world, amplifying the voice of the global south with a focus on the growing economies, resolving the conflicts, showcasing the culture, tradition, heritage and diversity. Watch Voice of the Global South at these times on DD India.
Welcome to Kumarakol, Kerala, God's own country.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. And now time to get you all the business updates as well. The former FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty by a New York jury. And this is on all 7 counts of fraud, embezzlement and criminal conspiracy. The panel reached its decision after 5 weeks of trial. Bankman has been found guilty of fraud, embezzlement and criminal conspiracy. The month-long trial had been an ordeal for Fried after some of his closest associates testified that he was key to all the decisions that saw $8 billion vanish from his FTX trading platform. Fried's defense lawyers, who objected to several rulings, are expected to appeal the verdict. The United Auto Workers Union is gearing up for the next phase of their campaign to build on the success in negotiating with the Detroit 3 automakers. As the UAW union won major pay and benefit hikes at Detroit, more organizing drives will be held at non-union U.S. car facilities including Toyota, Tesla and others. UAW President Sean Fain has appealed to the workers at Toyota to join the strike, which on Wednesday offered pay and benefit increases after the Detroit 3 contract talks concluded.
Toyota isn't giving out raises out of the goodness of their heart. Toyota is the largest and most profitable auto company in the world. They could have just as easily raised wages a month ago or a year ago. They did it now because the company knows we're coming for them. The company knows that Toyota workers are watching. And when the time comes, Toyota workers and all non-union auto workers are going to be ready to stand up.
The United Kingdom has announced a global hub to test AI models in order to ensure their safety. The AI Safety Institute has been launched as a 2-day summit has come to an end at Bletchley Park, which has been attended by government officials from 28 countries as well as leading tech figures, including India's minister concerned as well. Julia Chapman reports.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak hailed this as a landmark achievement, the idea being that new frontier AI models will be tested before being rolled out. It is the first time AI companies have agreed to this, but it will be a voluntary arrangement. Now, that will come under some criticism, but British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says there is buy-in from some of the largest companies in the world, including Google DeepMind and OpenAI. So certainly this is one of the major outcomes of the two-day summit, following on from the joint declaration signed by 28 countries, including the US and China. And in his press conference, Rishi Sunak defended the invitation of China, saying some critics said he shouldn't have invited China to participate, others saying that even if he did, there wouldn't be any kind of agreement with China. But ultimately, the outcome was that there is a joint declaration signed by all countries, and he said it was important that all the leading nations in the field of AI were participating in this conversation. So moving forward, there will be an intergovernmental panel looking at the risks of AI, similar to the one that there is for climate change, another major global threat. And the hope is that this will start a regular conversation. There will be summits like this one every 6 months, with the next one in South Korea 6 months from now and in France in a year's time. Julia Chapman at Bletchley Park, reporting for DD India.
Let's hope they move forward and getting some real handle on AI in terms of making it safer. Time now to get you all the sporting updates with Deepika, and quite a match we seem to be having in the World Cup today, aren't we, Deepika?
Absolutely. Netherlands is currently taking on Afghanistan. Well, at the Khana Cricket Stadium in Lucknow, the match is currently taking place. Netherlands have won the toss and decided to bat in the crucial match. The Dutch have made 2 changes. They've strengthened their bowling with Saqib Zulfikar and Van de Morf coming in. For Afghanistan, Noor Ahmed is back. Now, Netherlands were at 74 for a loss of 2 wickets when the last reports came in. In the previous game, Afghanistan registered a 7-wicket victory against Sri Lanka, while the Netherlands trounced Bangladesh by 87 runs. Earlier, India demolished Sri Lanka by 302 runs at the iconic Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai to qualify for the semi-final, and that too with a dominating performance, ensuring a scoreline of 7-0 at the group stage. India's lethal bowling attack led from the front to restrict Team Sri Lanka at 55. Now, this is one of the lowest scores that Sri Lanka made at Cricket World Cup in ODI format. Sri Lanka completely failed to chase a target of 358 runs. For Team India, Shubman Gill top scored with 92 runs, while Virat Kohli missed his 49th ODI ton after he was dismissed at 88. Shreyas Iyer also scored quick-fire 82 runs. Siraj silenced all the critiques, taking 3 wickets, while Shami took a 5-wicket haul. India is now all set to face South Africa on the 5th of November, Sunday. Chief of the Indian Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey, on Friday felicitated medal winners, participants and support staff from the Indian Army who took part in the recently concluded Asian Para Games. Indian Army Chief interacted with a total of 17 players and staff who attended the event at Manekshaw Centre in New Delhi, and also congratulated them for their excellent display at the Games. 11 sportspersons from Indian Army participated in the games, out of which 7 personnel were the medal winners. The medal tally includes 1 gold, 4 silver and 2 bronze medals. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to Gautam.
Thanks a lot, Deepika. And that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly Twitter, as well as Instagram. We'll be back with more news and updates as the break here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.